That's a tough act to follow. So growing up my whole life, I never knew what it was I wanted to do, like most people. So I'd always kept hearing things like, well, God has a plan for you, or everything happens for a reason. Well, I don't believe that's true. I don't think anything happens for a reason. It happens because you do it. Whatever you want to do, you do. Destiny doesn't find you. You find destiny. You go get it. So, when I graduated high school, after 13 years of sitting in the classroom 5 days a week for 8 hours a day, not being able to express myself, I had to be quiet. You're being taught subjects with your peers that none of you really enjoy. It's very limited, and no one's really having a good time. So, come graduation, I did not want to go to school anymore. I was sick of it. I didn't want to get a job, because who does? It doesn't seem very enjoyable coming out of high school. You're enjoying your summer. So, instead of trying to go away, which I couldn't, because I had no money, I had no job, I had no car, I lived with my parents. I was a typical high school kid who was clueless. So, I picked up a job at Park Street Pasties in August of 2008, 3 months after graduating. I worked at this pasty shop for 2.5 years, and I saved up $20,000 over this course of time. A year into the pasty shop, it's 2009, and I've worked hard the whole summer, or I've worked hard the whole year, and I haven't really taken a break. So I decided to go to my first ever major music festival and concert out at the Gorge Amphitheater for 3 days. One of the most beautiful places on earth. And once you go there, it changes you. You're there for 3 days with yourself, your friends, and 15 other thousand people who are there for the same exact reason. For music, to get away from their everyday life, to get away from school, to get away from their job, and to connect. So, after this amazing weekend, I go back to work, and I'm back inside of a small pasty shop for 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, all by myself, doing the same thing over again that I had just done the last 13 years of my life. I wasn't happy, but I knew I had to put up with it. I had to keep going. It was my first job. You know, that's what everyone keeps telling me, just keep going, you got this. And I put up with it. It'll be worth it in the end. So, a year and a half later, I put in my 2 weeks notice. I have my $20,000 all saved up over the last 2.5 years, and I'm ready to spend every last bit of it. I asked my parents for the keys to their car for off and on for the whole summer. From April to September, I spent every last bit of that money on music and art. I went up to over 60 major music festivals and concerts in that time, and I met some of the most interesting people in the world. This man here had been working at Red Rocks since he was 26 years old. All he does is sell beer. He gets to go to all the shows he wants, meet all the people he can, and he meets a lot of people because he sells beer. So he had been doing this for the last 50 years, and he absolutely loved it. I continued to go to shows, and I continued to meet people. The shows got more fun, and we started getting covered in paint. And sometimes, you'd even get creative and wear a funny outfit. That way, you know, it helps people feel more comfortable. When you're different, nobody else is afraid to be different, because you're that goofball. So if there's one goofball, people will follow. So, you know, every now and then, I'd get lucky at a show, and I'd get pulled up on stage. And it wouldn't have happened if I didn't go to the shows. I didn't get pulled up because it was destiny. I got pulled up because I went there. I was lucky out of one of 2 people to be able to be pulled up because I made myself noticed. So, the summer is now over. I've had the best 5 months I've possibly could spending this $20,000. But I no longer live with my parents. I'm broke. I still have no car. I now have no job. And I still have no idea what I'm going to do. But I have all these past experiences under my belt. And I've worked this job for the last 2.5 years, and it's taught me some things. I do not want to go back. is the last thing I want to do. And it's not because of the job itself. It's just, this was too much fun. And I didn't know there was this much creativity in the world. So, the next thing I thought was, how am I going to pay rent? I have rent to pay and I am broke. So, me and a couple friends, we pitched in the last of our money, which is about $525. And a month later, we held a show that we thought was going to be a small party that was barely going to get us by. 400 people later, we were onto something. We started our first business, Super Happy Daily Fun. The name says it all. Oh, there we go. The name says it all. So, over the last year and a half, we've thrown 12 major shows, and we've gotten over 2,500 people together for the same thing that I was searching for. To get away from life, to listen to music, and to connect with people. We were giving strangers a feeling that I absolutely loved. People I had never met before were coming up to me saying, when's the next one? When are we going to do that again? That was so awesome. I met so many cool people here. And that's exactly what I was looking for. And that's what a lot of people were looking for. So in order to keep people entertained and keep them engaged, it was kind of like we had a shotgun. We had to do crazy things in order to keep them in our shows. So one thing we did, the very first thing we did actually at our second show was we put a bounce castle inside of the venue. And kids absolutely loved it. I wish I had a picture of it, but I don't. So another thing we did was we had taken fencing wire and we wire wrapped it into crazy shapes and we put mirrors on it for reflection and all sorts of lighting purposes. And it turned out pretty cool. We've also showcased live painters during performance, fire spinners. We've held a few foam parties, 3 of them in this town. And we even held a 2-stage event in a church till 4 in the morning that did not have windows. So if you were in the neighborhood at the time, I apologize. So after doing all these things and connecting with all these people and meeting them, we really wanted to help the whole community, to bring it together and to find new ways for people to express themselves and have themselves heard. So the best way we figured we could do this, with the example that David gave in the last video, is to have the city come over a central point of the city, what makes it so. So to us, that's the original mine yard. It built the city, it made the city exactly what it was, but as soon as the miners left, it was gone. It was like the town was void of life, people left, and here we are with a big, huge, gaping hole, just staring at us. So this year we're looking to do a festival, a 2-day interactive festival, loads of music, loads of art. But the whole point is to breathe life back into it through once what gave you what it is. So we'll have all sorts of musical and national performers performing on this stage. And, hopefully it does exactly what we do. But that is kind of my story of how I got to here. And TED is all about ideas worth spreading. But the main reason I got here was for a presentation I'd given at an art symposium about 3 months ago. And that presentation was on how I was impacted by not only music, but the life of a person who was also impacted by music. I've never quite met a person like this in my life. On March 30th, 1992, Sarah Merle DeBoggy was born. Sarah had a vivacious and don't take shit, never back down kind of attitude. She had passion. A passion that could move your feet to the rhythm of a drum or move a mountain. Sarah impacted more lives in her young lifespan on this earth than I could have ever thought possible. And she had impacted me through music and through her attitude. I may not have been one of the closest people to Sarah throughout my life, but like I said, she made an impact. So I wanted to make that continue. And I know a lot of people did. Her friends, her family, even people who didn't really know her. So, with a lot of discussion and deliberation and talking and ideas came together, we found a way to make what was started as a small idea, it turned into a huge dream with a huge bunch of goals. But the first thing we did was on March 30th, 2013, Sarah's birthday, 13 months after she passed, we held the ceremony, celebration of Sarah. It was an 8-hour time lapse of music and dancing. We raised over $1,300 on this night, and we'll continue to raise more. But it was such a special night. We formed a scholarship program in honor of her life, Keep Dancing. While the musicians played, the drummers drummed, tappers tapped, dancers gave it up their all. They danced their hearts out. There was tears throughout the whole night. You could feel emotion. It's what you go to a show for. To connect with people, to know why you're there, and to have that overall feeling of something bigger. So, the most profound moment throughout this whole night, though, was the Trapdoor Project. It's a new group in Butte, and it was their first live performance at this event. The Trapdoor Project is a group that combines tap dancing with trap music, which is a new kind of electronic music, ambition, and contemporary ideas. So, they had this performance that literally you had to be there, just to feel it. It was so moving that Pastor Tim Christensen went home that night, stayed up late, and rewrote his entire sermon for Mass the next morning. That was one person directly impacted by the power of music and a life. One person. It was all we wanted. And so with that, that's the power of music, and that festivals can have. It can change a person radically. And with that, here's a video, and thank you.
Thank you.
So that was the performance from that night, and that's just a small example of how music can impact